It was my third year overseas when her text message came through. Can we go back to how things were? Just one simple sentence, but it was enough to make my fingers tremble, the phone nearly slipping from my grasp. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard, completely at a loss for how to reply. 3 years. For 3 whole years, I thought I had put it all behind me. Outside my window, the London rain fell in a persistent drizzle, just like it had on the day I left. I put the phone down and walked to the window, letting the memories pull me back to that summer. She said, "Ethan, I'm in love with someone else." She said, "He's the one true love of my life." She said, "I would rather cut ties with my family than not marry him." And the light in her eyes when she said it was something my 15 years of devotion had never earned. 15 years. From 7 to 22, from a girl with scraped knees to a poised young woman, from childhood friends to the eve of our wedding. I thought the course of our lives was already set in stone until the arrival of a scholarship kid named Leo Vance. I reach for the whiskey on the bar card and pour myself a glass. Memory is a strange thing. I'd spent 3 years deliberately burying it, but now it was all returning with the clarity of yesterday. My phone buzzed again. "Ethan, I know you saw my message. Please just text me back." A cold laugh escaped my lips. I tossed the phone onto the sofa. "Ava Miller, what on earth makes you think I would answer? When you walked away without a second thought, did you ever imagine this day would come?" The first time I knew something was wrong was that winter. Ava started staying up late, glued to her laptop, claiming she was on a tight deadline for a major design project. I didn't think much of it, just made sure to bring her a cup of hot milk every night like clockwork. That day, I'd just gotten home from work, carrying a box of cronets from her favorite bakery. As I pushed the door open, I heard her on the balcony, her voice soft and gentle in a way I'd never heard before. "I miss you too." "Yeah, don't worry, he's working late tonight." Her back was to me. She didn't see me standing in the living room. I quietly closed the door and backed out of the apartment. It's probably just a work thing, I told myself. We grew up together. She would never betray me. But in the days that followed, more and more red flags appeared. She started taking frequent business trips. She would always walk away to take phone calls. Her phone, now with a new password, never left her side. I had my suspicions, but every time I confronted her, she had a plausible explanation, her eyes shining with the same sincerity I had always known. "Ethan, how could you even think that? We're about to get married," she would say, pouting that I didn't trust her. I chose to believe her, because I loved her, and because in all the years I'd known her, she had never lied to me. Until the day I stumbled upon her iMessage history. Her iPad, which she'd forgotten to lock, was lying on the coffee table. The screen lit up with a new notification. "See you at the usual spot tonight. I'm dying to see you." The sender was saved as L, with a profile picture of a young man's face in silhouette. My fingers, moving of their own accord, scrolled up, revealing a long history of their conversations. "Last night was incredible. You're the most amazing woman I've ever met. When are you going to tell Ethan? I can't wait to have you all to myself, out in the open. Don't worry, I'll always be here for you, no matter what your family says." My vision went dark. It felt like a fist had slammed into my chest, knocking the air from my lungs. On the coffee table, our engagement photo stared back at me. Her brilliant smile now looked like that of a complete stranger. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I quietly looked into the identity of L. Leo Vance, 2 years younger than us, a graduate student in architecture. He came from a modest background, but had an outstanding academic record, winning multiple scholarships. He and Ava had met at a design competition. Afterward, he became an intern at her firm. I sat in my car and watched them leave a coffee shop, leaning into each other intimately. The way Ava looked up at him was filled with a kind of worshipful admiration I had never seen before. My knuckles turned white as I gripped the steering wheel, my heart squeezed tight by an invisible hand. 15 years. From grade school through college, from friendship to love, our futures were supposed to be intertwined. Our parents were old friends. Our engagement was seen as an inevitable, happy conclusion. I followed them for 3 days, gathering all the evidence I needed. Every photo, every video clip was another knife twisting in my heart. On the 4th day, I decided to face her. I waited in the living room until late into the night. When she walked in, She was still glowing with the sweet aftertaste of her evening. "Ethan, you're still up?" she asked casually, dropping her purse and heading for the bathroom. "Who is Leo Vance?" I asked, my voice flat. She stopped in her tracks, her back visibly stiffening. "He's an intern at the office. I told you about him," she said, turning around, forcing a nonchalant tone. I held out my phone. On the screen was a picture of them kissing. "I'll ask again. Who is Leo Vance?" The color drained from her face. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. "I gave you countless chances to tell me the truth," I said, my voice barely a whisper, yet it felt like it took all the strength I had. "Why lie to me until now?" She finally broke, slumping to the floor in a heap of tears. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. It's just, after I met him, I finally understood what real love feels like." Every word of her apology was a dull blade, slowly and cruelly carving up my heart. I just stood there, watching her sob, feeling a surreal sense of calm. "How long has this been going on?" I asked. 8 months, she whispered. 8 months. Our engagement party had been 3 months ago, when she took my arm in front of all our friends and family. When she let me slide the custom-designed diamond ring on her finger, she had already been cheating on me for 5 months. "We should end this," she finally said, looking up with a new resolve in her eyes. "Ethan, I'm in love with him. This isn't just a fling. I've never loved anyone the way I love him." In that moment, I could hear the sound of my own heart shattering. The days that followed were a living nightmare. Ava went public with her relationship with Leo, determined to break off our engagement despite the furious objections from both our families. Her parents were beside themselves with anger and shame. My mother cried every single day, and me, I acted like a detached observer through it all. I helped her pack her things. I even drove her to her new apartment. She was stunned by my composure. Perhaps she expected me to scream, to beg her to stay, to curse her out. "Ethan, you don't hate me?" she asked tentatively as we said our goodbyes. I looked at her and smiled. "We've known each other for so long. Ava, how could I hate you? I just want you to be happy." Her eyes welled up with tears, and she pulled me into a hug. "Thank you for being so understanding, Ethan. You'll always be my best friend." Friend? What a joke. I knew her family had cut her off financially, and I knew that while Leo was talented, he was also broke. So I was magnanimous. I pulled some strings to get him connected on a few projects, just so he could have a stable income to support them both. Ava's family called me a saint, told me I had no spine. I didn't argue. I just smiled. They didn't understand. Some wounds aren't avenged with shouting and anger. I started preparing my applications to go abroad. An MBA. I hadn't planned on going so soon, but now I needed to get out of this city, a place where every corner held a memory of us. The week before I left, Ava came to see me off. She was thinner than the last time I'd seen her, but her eyes were still bright. "Leo just landed a huge project. Thanks so much for your introduction," she said, beaming. "We're thinking of getting married next year. You have to come back for the wedding." I nodded and promised I would. I gave her an expensive necklace as an early wedding present. She was moved to tears, telling me I was the best person in the world. I just smiled. I didn't tell her about the GPS tracker embedded in the clasp. As I turned to walk away, I said a silent goodbye. "Goodbye, Ava." No, perhaps it was more fitting to say, until we meet again. I stayed in London for 3 years. I threw myself into my studies, built a network of contacts, and packed my schedule so tightly there was no room to think, no space for memories. But in the dead of night, her face would still invade my dreams. I kept tabs on Ava and Leo through various channels. At first, they were inseparable. Their Instagram feeds a constant stream of loving photos. Leo's career took off. He won several major contracts and was quickly becoming the new rising star in the industry. But the honeymoon phase didn't last. After a year, rumors started swirling about Leo getting a little too close with a wealthy developer's daughter. Then, he was spotted at exclusive clubs with a rotating cast of different women. I watched from afar, biding my time. 3 months before graduation, I received an offer from a top headhunting firm, a vice president position at a major architecture and design corporation back in New York. As it happened, this company had worked with Leo before, and the CEO was an alumnus I'd gotten to know during my MBA program. I accepted the offer without hesitation and booked my flight home. And right on cue, Ava's text arrived. Can we go back to how things were? I didn't reply. I just screenshotted the message and set it as my phone's wallpaper, a reminder of my motivation. The day I returned, London was rainy and gray, but New York was bathed in brilliant sunshine. I went straight from the airport to the design firm where Ava worked. I hadn't seen her in 3 years. She had lost weight, and the fine lines around her eyes spoke of a life that hadn't been easy. When she saw me, her expression was a flash of joy, which quickly faded into disappointment, likely because I had ignored her message. "Ethan, you're back," she stammered. "When did you land? Why didn't you tell me? I would have picked you up." I smiled and handed her a matcha latte, her favorite. "I wanted to surprise you. How about lunch? I just got back. Would love to hear how you're doing." She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, sure. My treat." At the restaurant, she was fidgety, her eyes darting around, avoiding mine. I feigned ignorance and asked about Leo. Her expression immediately froze. We broke up," she said quietly. "About 6 months ago. What happened?" I asked, pretending to be shocked. "I thought you two were so happy together." Tears instantly welled in her eyes. "He cheated on me. More than once. The last time, I found him in his apartment with the daughter of one of his clients." Her voice broke, and she couldn't continue. I passed her a napkin, my tone full of concern. "I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have asked. Are you okay?" "No, I'm not okay," she said, looking up, her eyes filled with pain and regret. "Ethan, I made a terrible mistake. I never should have left you. I regret it every single day." I gently took her hand and looked her in the eye. "Let's leave the past in the past. I'm back now. We can start over." A flicker of hope ignited in her eyes. She gripped my hand like a lifeline. Inside, I was laughing. "Ava, the game is just beginning." In my first week back, I set my plan in motion. First, I reached out to Leo, suggesting we catch up as old acquaintances. He had changed a lot in 3 years. Dressed in designer clothes, he carried himself with the easy confidence of a man who had made it. "Ethan, long time no see," he said, shaking my hand warmly. "Heard you're back as a VP at Stratos. Congratulations, man." I smiled back. "Thanks to you. Those projects you worked on a few years back made me look good with some of the alumni." He waved his hand dismissively. "It was nothing. So, you and Ava." "Ancient history," I said breezily. "People grow apart. Heard you two split up as well." He looked a bit awkward. "Yeah, well, better to cut your losses if it's not the right fit, you know?" "Absolutely," I said, raising my glass. "To freedom." After a few drinks, his guard came down, and he started to open up. "Honestly, man, Ava's a good person, but she's just too conventional. Her worldview is so small. The people I'm dealing with now, the circles I move in, she just couldn't keep up." I nodded in sympathy. "I get it. A man's got to climb." He clapped me on the shoulder, energized. "Exactly, you get it, Ethan. Not like her, always with the guilt trips, going on about how she gave up everything for me." He stopped short, suddenly cautious, glancing at my reaction. I laughed loudly. "Don't worry about it. It's all in the past. Besides, we're all adults here. You make your choices, you live with the consequences, right?" He visibly relaxed and downed another glass of whiskey. "By the way," he said, leaning in, "I heard Stratos is developing that new downtown complex. I've actually been working on a design proposal." "What a coincidence. We're currently looking for partners," I said thoughtfully. "Tell you what, come by the office next week, and we can talk details. This is a massive project. If this works out, it could be a huge breakthrough for your studio." His eyes lit up with ambition. Before we left, I casually asked, "Oh, and I heard you're getting close with the Prescott heiress?" He gave me a smug wink. "You hear things fast. Still in pursuit, but I'd say I'm about 80% there. The Prescotts are real estate royalty in this city. If I can land her, I'll be set for life." I nodded. "Congratulations. Sounds like things are about to get serious." At the same time, I continued to see Ava. The 3 years apart seemed to have made her more dependent on me than ever. We met or spoke on the phone almost every day. "Ethan, you must have hated me so much all these years, didn't you?" she asked softly one evening after dinner, her head resting on my shoulder. I stroked her hair. "Of course not. I just needed time to heal. Looking back, maybe the breakup was for the best. It helped us both grow up. She looked up, her eyes full of hope. So, what does that make us now? A new beginning, I said, kissing her forehead. Let's take it slow, okay? She nodded, overjoyed, a new light animating her entire being. Late that night, I scrolled through the photos on my phone. Pictures of Leo with various women, which I had paid a handsome sum to acquire from someone in his circle. Screenshots of his texts with the Prescott heiress, full of dismissive comments about Ava and candid confessions of his own social climbing ambitions. The pieces were all in place. All I had to do now was wait for the right moment to make my move. A month later, I proposed to Ava. I chose her favorite spot by the ocean, got down on one knee, and presented her with a custom-made diamond ring. Ava Miller, will you marry me? Let's start our lives over together. She was so stunned she couldn't speak, tears blurring her vision. Ethan, do you really forgive me? I smiled and nodded. The past is the past. What matters is our future. She fell into my arms, sobbing like a child. I promise, she choked out. I will never, ever hurt you again. The news of our engagement spread like wildfire. Both our families embraced the outcome, relieved. Ava's mother held my hands, her voice thick with emotion, telling me I was the most forgiving man in the world. I just smiled, never letting on about my real plan. Meanwhile, I moved forward with Leo's collaboration. His design proposal was genuinely impressive. I smoothly recommended him to the executive board, strongly hinting that he was the frontrunner for the project. He was ecstatic, treating me to expensive dinners and even offering me a percentage of his company's shares. I turned down the shares, but accepted several of his lavish gifts, making sure every interaction was recorded, every transaction documented. Everything was going according to plan until Leo called me one night, drunk and rambling, unhappy about my reconciliation with Ava. Ethan, let me be real with you, man. That woman does not deserve you, he slurred. She did everything for me back then. Did you know she even... I cut him off. Leo, you're drunk. You don't need to worry about me and Ava. Worry? Ha ha, he laughed wildly. I'm not worried. I just think it's hilarious. You know why she suddenly came crawling back to you? Because I dumped her and she had nothing left. You're just her backup plan. I calmly recorded the entire conversation before hanging up. The next day, I invited Ava to dinner at an exclusive restaurant, booking a private room. Ethan, what's the big secret? She asked, intrigued. I smiled, pouring her a glass of wine. I have a surprise for you. Leo's project was officially approved, and it's even bigger than we anticipated. Really? That's wonderful, she said, genuinely happy for me. I knew you'd do great things when you came back. I watched her radiant smile and then asked, Ava, are you with me now because you love me or because Leo dumped you? Her smile froze on her face. The color slowly drained from her cheeks. What? What are you talking about? I calmly pressed play on my phone. The sound of Leo's drunken rant filled the silence of the room. Her expression shifted from shock to horror, then to utter shame. Ethan, I can explain. No need, I interrupted. I just want to know one thing. Did you come back to me out of love, or because you had nowhere else to go? She looked down, tears splashing onto the white tablecloth. At first, it was because Leo broke up with me, and I was devastated. But Ethan, being with you again, I realized I never stopped loving you. Please, you have to believe me. I watched her in silence, then slowly pulled a folded document from my jacket pocket and placed it on the table in front of her. What is this? She asked, her voice trembling. A dissolution of partnership agreement, I said softly. But we're not married yet, she said, looking up in confusion. I know. Think of it more as a formal declaration, I explained calmly. A declaration that I, Ethan Cole, am hereby terminating any and all relations with Ava Miller, including but not limited to romantic, engaged, and any other personal association. She completely fell apart, dropping to her knees and clutching my leg. No, Ethan, please don't do this. I know I was wrong. I really do love you. Just give me one more chance. I gently pushed her away and stood up to leave. Behind me, her cries were heart-wrenching, but I didn't look back. 3 years ago, you chose to leave without hesitation. Now it's my turn. The news of our broken engagement hit our social circle like a bomb. I didn't reveal the truth, only saying that after careful consideration, we decided we weren't right for each other. But Ava told her parents everything. They were horrified and heartbroken. Her father even came to my office, pleading with me to give her another chance. "Ethan, I know what Ava did was wrong, but she truly regrets it," he said, his eyes filled with tears. "You two grew up together. Can you really just let it all end like this?" I politely saw him out, my decision unchanged. Ava began contacting me obsessively, calls, texts, emails. She even started waiting for me outside my office building. Every time I saw her, she was a wreck, begging for my forgiveness. "Ethan, you're the only person I've ever truly loved. I was blind back then. Please, just give me one more chance." My response was always the same cold refusal. "Ava, you had the right to choose to leave. I have the right to choose not to forgive. Please respect my decision." At the same time, I began to execute my plan against Leo. First, I hired a private investigator to dig into his portfolio of work. As expected, they found multiple instances of plagiarism. I anonymously sent this evidence to prominent industry publications, and for good measure, to the Prescott heiress he was so desperately trying to win over. Second, I sent them the recordings of my conversations with Leo. In those recordings, I had skillfully guided him into boasting about his unethical business practices. Fueled by alcohol and arrogance, he had bragged about how he used money and women to secure major deals, even mocking his competitors as fools who actually play by the rules. "In this business, everyone's greasing palms," he'd said, clapping me on the back. "You're too clean, Ethan. It's going to hold you back. You want me to introduce you to some models? Way more fun than a rigid girl like Ava, I guarantee it." Third, I had my company's legal department conduct a thorough audit of his firm's credentials and past projects. They quickly uncovered evidence of him cutting corners, using substandard materials, and inflating costs on several past jobs. Once everything was in place, I summoned Leo to my office under a false pretense and, in front of the entire executive board, announced that we were terminating our partnership. "Why?" he stammered, his face a mask of disbelief. "We had a deal." I coldly tossed a file onto the table in front of him. "Mr. Vance, plagiarizing the work of others is one thing, but fraud and endangerment, my company doesn't do business with criminals." His face went ashen. "You, how did you know?" "Furthermore," I continued, "the evidence of bribery and kickbacks has already been forwarded to the district attorney's office. I suggest you get a good lawyer." He collapsed, falling to his knees and pleading, "Ethan, we're friends. Don't do this. I can explain." I looked down at him. "Friends? Leo, when you were sleeping with my fiancée, did you remember that we were friends?" The realization finally dawned on him. "It was you. You've been planning this all along." "No, this isn't revenge," I said calmly. "This is consequences. You've earned every bit of what's coming to you." I turned and walked out, leaving him to his hysterical screams in the conference room. That evening, the news broke. The media ran expose after expose on Leo's plagiarism. Over the next week, the evidence of his fraud and bribery was leaked to the press. The Prescott heiress publicly denounced him. His former business partners scrambled to distance themselves. In the span of a month, Leo Vance went from the industry's golden boy to a social pariah. His company went bankrupt, his assets were frozen, and he was facing serious jail time. Destroying Leo was only the beginning. I compiled everything, every text message between him and Ava, every photo, along with all the evidence of how he cheated on her, into a single digital file. Then I anonymously sent it to mutual friends and industry gossip blogs. Soon, the story was all over social media. Shocker, star architect Leo Vance's serial cheating exposed. Ex-girlfriend left high society fiancé for him, only to be betrayed. Exclusive, Leo Vance's sordid texts to multiple women leaked. The digital firestorm obliterated what was left of Leo's reputation. And Ava, as one of the central figures in this drama, could not escape the fallout. Her social media accounts were flooded with hateful comments and DMs. "Serves you right for betraying your fiancé." Gold-digging backstabber got what she deserved. Ava was forced to take an extended leave from work, hiding at home, too afraid to go out. She called me almost every day, her voice thick with desperation. "Ethan, please help me. I can't take this anymore." My reply was ice cold. "Isn't this the life you wanted? To give up everything for true love. How does it feel? I was wrong. I know I was wrong. She sobbed, unable to catch her breath. Ethan, you're the only one who can help me. Please. I said nothing and hung up the phone. Meanwhile, I started dating Claire Lynn, the sharp and sophisticated new head of our legal department. We made a point of being seen together, deliberately showing up at places where Ava might see or hear about us. It didn't take long for the news to reach her. One night, a drunk and disheveled Ava appeared at my apartment door, soaked from the rain, her makeup smeared. You're going to marry her, aren't you? She demanded hysterically. Did our 15 years mean nothing to you? A sneer crossed my face. Ava, who are you to question me? When you threw away our 15 years for Leo Vance, what did they mean to you? That was different. I was swept up. I wasn't thinking clearly. She sobbed. Ethan, I finally understand now. You're the only one in this world who ever truly loved me. No, Ava, I cut her off. I don't love you anymore. You kill that love yourself. She sank to her knees, utterly broken. Don't say that. Please give me one more chance. I'll do anything. I looked down at her. Anything. Yes, anything, she cried, her eyes grasping at a sliver of hope. I spoke slowly and clearly, then disappear from my life. Completely. With that, I closed the door, shutting out the sound of her soul-tearing screams. I later received a long letter from her. It was filled with pages of regret and guilt, ending with one final plea. If this is what you truly want, then I will disappear. But please believe me when I say my love for you is real. I just realized it far too late. I fed the letter into the shredder and moved on with my life. 2 months later, Leo Vance was formally arrested on charges of bribery and contract fraud. The case made headlines. I stayed out of the spotlight, quietly ensuring the prosecution had everything they needed to prevent him from getting off easy. The man who had once been so arrogant, the man who had stolen my fiancée, was now a pathetic figure in a courtroom, head bowed in disgrace. My relationship with Claire was progressing steadily. We had even started talking about marriage. She was an intelligent woman. She never asked about my past, focusing only on our future. Is there still a place for Ava in your heart? She asked me directly one night after a date. I answered honestly, no, she's in the past. Claire smiled. Good. I don't mind you having a past, but I have no intention of sharing my future with a ghost. I admired her for her rational and direct nature, a stark contrast to Ava's emotional chaos. But the peace didn't last long. One evening, I received a call from Ava's mother, her voice frantic and choked with tears. Ethan, it's Ava. Mrs. Miller, please calm down. Tell me what happened, I said, keeping my own voice steady. Ava tried to kill herself, she finally cried out. She's at Mount Sinai. She left a note, said she was sorry for everything she did to you. A muscle tightened in my jaw, but my composure held. I see. Let her be. After hanging up, I sat in silence. Was this another manipulation tactic? Or had she truly hit rock bottom? Either way, I couldn't afford to show any weakness. So I didn't go, but Ava made sure I saw her. A short video clip arrived on my phone. She was lying in a hospital bed, her face as pale as the sheets. Thick bandages were wrapped around one wrist. Her eyes fluttered open weakly, a bitter smile touching her lips. I'm sorry, she mouthed. It was all my fault. Just please, forgive me. I'll do whatever you want. Her eyes were pleading, desperate for a sign. I watched the video, a cold sneer forming on my lips, and then I deleted it. And then I blocked Ava's number. This woman, I had made myself perfectly clear, and still she pulled a stunt like this. It was utterly selfish. She clearly wasn't thinking about me at all, trying to blackmail me with suicide. Pathetic. It was obvious she couldn't accept that I had a new life, that she was nothing more than a memory. I refused to be dragged back into her drama. I purged her from my thoughts. From that day forward, she was just a stranger. Leo Vance was ultimately sentenced to 7 years in prison and a $2 million fine. The day the news broke, I was on vacation with Claire in the Florida Keys. Seeing the headline on her phone, she asked thoughtfully, this Leo Vance. He's the one who was with Ava, isn't he? I was slightly surprised. You knew. She smiled. Ethan, in our world, there are no secrets. I just never asked. I nodded. Yes, that's him. She was quiet for a moment, then said, You orchestrated all of this, didn't you? I didn't deny it. He got what he deserved. And Ava, she asked, looking me straight in the eye, was what happened to her part of the plan too? A faint smile touched my lips. Yes. After all, she was the one who hurt me the most. Claire considered this for a moment and then nodded. I understand, and I think you did the right thing. I was grateful for her understanding. It seemed that this time, my judgment had not been wrong. Claire and I set a wedding date for the end of the year and dove into preparations. Everything seemed to be moving in the right direction, until the day I ran into Ava outside my office building. She looked much healthier than the last time I'd seen her. Dressed in a simple white blouse and jeans, with no makeup, she looked fresh, almost like a different person. Hi, she said with a small, easy smile, as if we were just old friends. Congratulations on your engagement. A wave of revulsion washed over me. I gave a curt, wary nod. Thanks. What are you doing here? I just had an interview for a designer position here, she said calmly. I frowned. You know this is my company. I know, she admitted, her gaze steady. But I just need a job, a chance to start over. Don't worry, I have no intention of interfering in your life. I studied her, searching for any sign of a hidden agenda, but all I saw was a quiet sincerity. Good luck then, I finally said. I hope you find what you're looking for. Thank you, she smiled. And I hope you'll be very happy, Ethan. I hope Claire can give you the happiness I couldn't. She turned and walked away. Her posture no longer held its former pride, replaced by a newfound resilience. I stood there for a long moment. Why didn't her well wishes give me the sense of victory I expected? Why did they leave a strange, unsettled feeling in my gut? What was this woman planning? That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was flooded with memories of our childhood, the first time we held hands, and the pure, genuine way she used to look at me. I woke up to a damp pillow. I threw back the covers in disgust, hating myself for this moment of weakness. No, I would not soften. I would not waver. She had to pay the price for her choices. 2 weeks before the wedding, shocking news broke. Leo Vance had been found dead in his prison cell. He had taken his own life. The story was everywhere, sparking rampant speculation. Some said he couldn't handle prison life. Others whispered he'd been targeted by other inmates. But the most stunning development was a letter he left behind. In it, he confessed to manipulating and blackmailing Ava into leaving me. Ava Miller is innocent, the letter read. I took advantage of her trust. I fabricated a situation to gain leverage over her, forcing her to be with me. She was always a good person, pure and kind. My own darkness is what caused all of this. I'm sorry for what I did to her, and I am sorry for what I did to Ethan Cole. The letter was leaked to the media, and public opinion reversed overnight. The same online mobs that had vilified Ava were now flooding her old social media pages with apologies, sympathizing with her as a victim of a cruel predator. And I was thrown into a state of utter turmoil. If Leo's confession was real, was it possible Ava had been coerced? Did that make her betrayal understandable? Forgivable? Had my revenge gone too far? I tried to call Ava, but her number was disconnected. All of her social media accounts had been deleted. After asking around, a mutual friend told me she had left New York with no forwarding address. The day before my wedding, Claire called it off. Why? I asked, stunned. She looked at me with a sad, steady gaze. Because you don't love me, Ethan. Your heart is still haunted by Ava Miller. I tried to argue. That's not true. I'm over her. I love you. She gave a bitter smile. Really? Then tell me, when you heard the news about Leo Vance, who was the first person you thought of? I was silent because we both knew the answer. I don't blame you, Claire said softly. 15 years of history doesn't just vanish. You haven't found closure, and if we get married now, we'll both live with regret. I had no defense. I had to accept it. The news of the canceled wedding spread quickly. I told our friends it was a mutual decision, a result of deep reflection. A month later, I finally learned Ava's whereabouts from her mother. She had moved to a small town in the Midwest and was teaching design at a local community college. Without a second thought, I booked the next flight out. The town was small, the college easy to find. I stood outside her classroom, watching through the window as she patiently guided a student through a project. Sunlight streamed in, tracing a warm silhouette around her. The bell rang, and students began to file out. I stood in the doorway, and we came face to face as she was the last to leave. Her eyes widened in shock. Ethan, what are you? I gave a sharp nod. Several large men in dark suits appeared, swiftly pulling a canvas bag over her head. A short time later, on a remote, wooded hill, I had them release her. A brilliant plan. Truly impressive, I said with a cold smile. Conspiring with Leo to use a suicide note to rewrite history. To paint you as a victim and make me the villain. A final act of revenge from the two people I defeated. I laughed. I have to admit, for a couple of losers, that was a pretty good countermove. Ava stared at me, her face pale with terror. Ethan, don't be crazy. Leo planned all of it. He had something on me. He threatened me. I had no choice. A flicker of rage crossed my face. I didn't let her finish. I brought the steel edge of the shovel down hard, and she crumpled to the ground. Then I gave the order to my men. They began to dig. It was obvious. This woman, filled with resentment, had found a kindred spirit in the equally bitter Leo Vance. Together, they had cooked up one last toxic scheme to ruin my life, to wreck my wedding to Claire. And she still had the audacity to lie to my face. A venomous snake like her couldn't be allowed to exist in this world. First, you destroy my trust for the sake of love, I murmured as the men worked. Then, when your new life falls apart, you try to come back to me, even faking a suicide attempt. And when all of that fails, you decide to burn my world down with yours. I sighed, shaking my head. Ava, what did I ever do to deserve so much of your attention? I looked down at the freshly turned earth. You can rest here now. Don't ever bother me again. As a final precaution, I purchased the entire tract of land and established it as a private, closed to the public nature preserve. A beautiful, serene place on the surface, its true purpose known only to me. Finally, my life was quiet. 3 years later, I married a famous actress. She was stunning, a perfect 10, and I enjoyed every moment of the life I had built. One day, I saw Claire again. She approached me at a charity gala, her eyes red-rimmed. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I was wrong, she whispered. I see it all so clearly now. We were manipulated by Ava. I was so arrogant, thinking I knew what was in your heart. I let her win. I'm so sorry. She stood there in the rain-swept valet area, her dress clinging to her, looking so fragile and full of regret. For a split second, her image merged with a memory of Ava. A chill ran down my spine. I smiled politely and nodded. Then I made a quiet call, and my men intercepted her car on the way home. Another problem solved. Life is so unpredictable. I mused later that night, my beautiful wife asleep in my arms, so very fragile. The end.